Hi folks, welcome back to the Tabletop's Edge and our continuing Days of Decision World in Flames combined campaign game. Today we pick up with the new year, 1940, January, February. Things have gotten a bit exciting here over the last couple of turns with the outbreak of general war in Europe. Germany thought they could gobble up yet another European minor on the cheap when they invaded Netherlands, but were surprised when the Commonwealth and France both declared war on them, and then subsequently brought the Belgians in actively in the war on their side. Now, the invasion of France has not gone as well as Germany had hoped, at least initially. However, a late turn attack in December of last turn has managed to pierce the northern edge of the Maginot Line and has given the Germans new hope, I think. Now, there's still a ways to go before they can get to Paris, but I think 1940 could be a year of decision here in the West. Either way, if Germany can knock France out of the war, that will change the entire complexion of the situation in Europe. While conversely, if the Allies can stop the Germans from reaching Paris, Germany is going to be in a fair bit of trouble, particularly if the Soviets are able to wrap up their adventure in the Middle East and then turn the majority of their forces back to their western border. Germany could easily find herself fighting on two fronts without the resources necessary to sustain that. Meanwhile, over in Asia, we've seen the Japanese just continue to slowly grind away at the Chinese and push them back gradually. They've managed to link up their southern and northern fronts into a single continuous front now. And we'll see as we get into 1940 if the Japanese can increase the pace of their advances over in China. And then, of course, we have the United States, who so far has been a bit of a slumbering giant. We'll see if the developments around the world do anything to sort of shake her out of that torpor and take a more active role in things. So with all of that out of the way, let's jump right into the political phase, because we still have a number of major powers that have to resolve the options that were taken in September, October, when some declarations of war started flying around. Here we are at the Major Power Initiative display, and last turn we had a very short political phase which ended after the Commonwealth, who was in the first position, chose their political option due to the Commonwealth rolling a 1. So that didn't make many of the other major powers terribly happy, and now they are on the hook for needing to pay for and technically select the reaction options that they took in the form of declarations of war back in September, October. And as a result, we do have 3 of the major powers that are actually bidding for options this phase. We have Germany, who bid 1, Italy bid 2, and France bid 4. However, there's some modifications to this beyond just the position modifier. The fact that France, Italy, and Germany, none of the 3 were able to execute the option that they paid for last time, they do get a bonus equal to their political effectiveness on this bid. As a result, Germany's 1 money that they spent is going to get a +3 for their position and a +5 for their political effectiveness, for a grand total of 9. The Italians spent 2. They're going to get a +3 for position and another +3 for their political effectiveness. That's going to give them a grand total of 8. And the other bidder is France. Now, France bid 4, which is more than the other 2 combined, actually. But she's only getting a +2 from her position, which brings her up to 6. And then she'll get another 4 from her political effectiveness, which brings it up to 10. Now, unfortunately for France, France is playing 2 options this phase, so she's got to split that 10 between the 2 of them, and it ends up being a 5. So as a result, we have Germany with the overall highest total of 9, followed by the Italians with 8. Then the French will come in here in 3rd position. And then among the 5 major powers that didn't bid, they're all 0 plus their position modifier. So the Commonwealth will slip down here to 4th. The Soviet Union will retain 5th with the +2. Japan and the United States are tied, but the Japanese effectiveness is greater than the American political effectiveness, so they will win that tiebreaker, and then the Chinese will bring up the 8th position to complete the order for us. We'll slide our first marker here, and the last bidding power there is France, which means we are up to Germany now, and I think the axes are a little out of order here. I think the Germans would have preferred to let the Italians go first, because what the Germans were planning on doing is dependent upon what the Italians are going to do this turn. But since Germany has to go before the Italians, that's not going to be possible. So the Germans are not terribly happy with the way the order came out, and they're going to have to scramble here and see what they can do with the first position they're in. Well, I may have misspoke a little bit just now. While Germany can't do what she wants to do this political phase, she can do what she must do, and that is to select German option for its war. This is the declaration of war against the Netherlands that happened way back in September, October, but again, it would normally have been selected in November, December, but Germany did not get the opportunity to do so. So here we are a couple turns later, finally getting around to this. Now, there is something Germany would much rather do this particular phase, but she can't do that. And the fact the Italians are going after the Germans is not going to impact this turn. It's not going to impact Germany's obligation to select option 4 here. It would have impacted something else, but as long as the Italians get an opportunity to do what they want to do, then the Germans will be able to follow up in future turns. So we've paid 3 because it's a declaration of war on a minor power, and we've already met all of the prerequisites for all intents and purposes. Not only is the declaration of war actually been executed on the map board, but they've conquered the Netherlands. So what remains to be done is to apply the modifiers and the impact to U.S. entry, and then to activate a minor country. So I'll go ahead and update everything here. We're going to be applying the war chart plus these specific modifiers, and if we haven't discussed the war chart previously, it is a chart in the back of the Days of Decision book that is used for declarations of war. There's another one called the treaty chart, which looks the exact same on the back cover here. This is used when the options direct you to the treaty chart, and you'll see if you sign a treaty or if you declare war on the countries across the top, you simply read down the column to find out what the effects are as far as U.S. entry is and on the various minor countries around the globe. So we'll be applying the war chart here as modified by these specific countries here. Once that's done, we'll have Germany select a minor power or a minor country to activate, and then we'll head over to the status display. As one might expect, there were a number of nations that reacted both negatively and somewhat positively to the German declaration of war. And looking things over, there are a couple of options the Germans could use to activate minors. Finland, they're sitting at a +3 right now. Finland's already in the fascist ideology in the outer faction. They like Sweden, are just 2 hexes from Germany's hex itself, and if Germany can get that Finland marker in the same hex with her, then because they do have an alliance, Germany could bring Finland into the war at a future date. But as it stands now, if they were to activate Finland with the 3 influence, they'd be kind of wasting one of those influences, and I think they'd rather maybe wait and see if they can get just another influence in Finland, and then if they were to activate them, they would be able to move the Finnish marker into the German hex and sort of have accomplished their diplomatic work there with Finland. So instead, I think actually we're going to head over here to South America of all places. As you can see, there's just a ton of markers down here in Argentina and Chile. And the fascist powers are actually doing fairly well in the influence department down here. Germany has +4 in Argentina, and she has +5 in Chile. I'm tempted to activate Argentina, but instead we're going to go with Chile because the Japanese have a -2 in Argentina. The France and Commonwealth are both negatives there, and I think were we to implement the all of the influence here, we'd see the Argentinian marker moving maybe not to the most helpful of locations on the status display. On the other hand, Chile is sitting just outside the fascist ideology, and I believe the 5 influence we have here for Germany there will be enough to draw Chile in at least to the ideology and another step closer to perhaps becoming an active participant in the fascist plans for global domination. So let's go ahead and activate Chile. We'll go ahead and take all of these markers over to the status display where we'll go ahead and implement their effects. Now you can see here on the status display, we've got 6 major powers with some form of influence in Chile. And Germany is located here at the heart of the fascist ideology. The Chile marker is just outside here. And what we're going to do, we'll go ahead, if we've got Italy, the United States, and China all have 1 influence, which we know is not going to be enough to move the marker in any direction. So we can dispense with those right off the bat. That leaves us Germany with +5, Japan with +2, and the Commonwealth with +2. And I think the way we're going to execute this influence is probably left to right in the order that you see. Germany with 5, its base cost of 2 to move the marker. It's going to be +1 for crossing the barrier here. So that'll place, Germany can place Chile either here or here, and I think they'll go into the Sweden box for a total of 3. Now that leaves 2 influence remaining. Again, base cost of 2 to move here. It's going to be +1 crossing the border, crossing a boundary. However, if it's moving towards you in your ideology, there's a -1. So that -1 is going to offset this boundary here, and Germany will get to use the remaining 2 influence to draw Chile even closer into the authoritarian faction. There's the 5 there. Japan has 2, and what that's going to do is it's going to cost 2 to move here, but since Chile is in the ideology and moving towards Japan, it actually only costs 1 to move here. And with the second one, that's going to put Chile in Japan's hex. And then finally, we have +2 for the Commonwealth. That's going to draw Chile here. Well, it's a base 2 to move a hex, but then the +1 for crossing the boundary means it's going to require 3 to actually move it. And with that being the case, these 2 Commonwealth influence are essentially wasted. And what has happened here is that the fascists have managed to get Chile into the same hex as Japan. Now, currently, there are no alliances with Chile, but this does open up the possibility of Japan signing some kind of an alliance or a treaty with Chile. And if so, that would then make Chile eligible to be activated as a minor country, which obviously would not make the United States very happy. So it's something that Japan's going to have to think long and hard about. But they may find themselves with perhaps someplace where they can base their navy on the eastern edge of the Pacific and in the Western Hemisphere, which could prove to be interesting later on. So I'd say overall a pretty successful political option for the fascists, and we are not yet done, or are we? First, the last thing we have to do is roll to see if Germany pulls a Commonwealth and ends this phase after just a single option being played. Of course, we need a 1, so anything but a 1 and it will continue. That's about as close as you can get with a 2 there. So Italy and France breathe a sigh of relief. The marker on the political initiative display will move down, and we are now going over to the Italians for them to play their political option. Moving on to Italy, she is going to be playing IPO 3, Minor Alliance. Now, this is not to make an alliance with a minor country. Rather, she is going to be breaking the one alliance she has with Hungary. And this is not just something Italy's doing on a whim, but this is at the behest of Germany. So Italy is playing the role of the rather compliant ally here so far in this game. She's done a few things that the Germans have asked of her, and in return is getting paid, if you will, by the supplying of some resources from Germany. I would not be surprised to see a similar deal struck here, where Germany will be returning the favor in the form of some resources that can be turned into some units for the Italian military. So what we do here, you can always break your own alliance. You use the same option, IPO3, whether you're making an alliance or breaking an alliance. If you are trying to make an alliance, or if you are trying to break another major powers alliance, you do have to make a die roll to see if you're successful at it. This does cost 5 money if it's successful. A major power can always break their own alliance, so it will be automatically successful. Italy has paid 5. Combined with the 2 she bid to do the option, she's now sitting at -7 as far as income here, so I don't know that they will be building very much this turn. I'm not even sure they're going to get back to 0 with production later this turn, but we'll see. What this does, it really only is going to affect, I think, Hungary itself. The rules are a little unclear about the minor country effects. You do see here where it says apply treaty chart if successful, but above that, here under the modifiers, apply treaty chart if successful, break own alliance, war chart -1 to other allies. Well, Italy does not have any other allies, so we don't have to worry about that. What I think I'm going to do here is I will, there's got to be some effect on the minor country itself, I would think, from breaking an alliance with them. And what I'll do is I will apply the treaty chart, but because we are breaking the alliance rather than making the alliance, we will apply the opposite treaty chart effect. So if I bring the treaty chart in here real quick, you can see we're looking at the column here on Hungary. So it says if you sign a treaty with these countries, so this would be the target country. Here's Hungary here. The effect then on each of these minor countries, you read across to find the effect on it. And with the U.S. entry here, it's 1940 now. It's a +2. We're going to go ahead and make that a -2, I suppose, so that will lower the Italian U.S. entry just a touch. But if we come down, the only country that is going to be affected here is Hungary itself. You can see that's at +3, which, because we're breaking the treaty, will actually turn into a -3. So that's the only influence that will be placed as a result of this. We'll go ahead and remove the alliance marker from Hungary. You can see here on the minor display that I have, Germany and Italy to this point have had alliances with Hungary. I believe Italy started the game back in 1936 with a treaty with Hungary. So with this removed, I just need to place some influence in Hungary, and then the Italians will get to activate a minor somewhere on the map. So let's head over to the map and see what they decide to do. The Italians don't have a lot of influence on the map, actually, and that's largely because they haven't been doing very many political options, and honestly that's because they really can't afford them. They probably should have been doing more to help the nationalists earlier in the Spanish Civil War, but at this point it doesn't appear that Franco needs much help from Italy, since they do have the Republicans sort of penned up along the coast in Valencia and Malaga. So there's not a whole lot of other things that Italy's really pressing to do, and so she's been saving that what little
money she's been getting and trying to build up her military. She hasn't been terribly successful at that either. So as a result, there are only about 5 or 6 countries with any Italian influence in them at all, and they're almost all negative, including Hungary. But Hungary is currently stacked with Germany on the status display, which means it's going to take an awful lot of influence to move that marker out of that hex. Probably 4 or 5, depending upon where that marker is going to move. And as we can see here, there's some influence on the part of Germany, the Commonwealth, and Italy in Hungary. I think what Italy's going to do is go ahead and activate Hungary, and that is going to kind of expend the influence that's in there before it has a chance to build up to a point where it may threaten to push Hungary away from Germany. So let's take the markers over to the status display and just see how this plays out. On the status display here, we can see Italy, Germany, and there is Hungary's marker with our 3 influence here. Now, Germany has a +2 influence, Italy has a -3, and the Commonwealth has a -2. That -2 is going to drive tend to drive the Hungarian marker into one of these 2 hexes. However, it's 2 base to move into a hex. However, we're looking at a +1 for leaving a hex occupied by a major power that can control the minor, which is the case here. It wouldn't be crossing a boundary. That would be another +1. And +1 for moving away from any allied major power, which is the case here. So it's going to take 4 influence to push the marker into these hexes, which means this Commonwealth influence is basically just blown off. The Italian case is a -3, and it would be moving into this hex, which will be crossing a boundary. So that's going to add another +1 to that 4 for a total of 5, which means we can basically disregard the -3 there. And then with the German 2 influence, it's already in the German hex and cannot move any closer to it. So no effect from all of that influence. That basically now will give Hungary a clean sheet, as it were, on the map. And I think it should be fairly obvious at this point that what Germany is trying to do is bring Hungary actively into the war on her side. So I would expect Germany to be playing the option that brings a minor country into the war here in the not too distant future. But for now, that does wrap up the Italian option, and the only thing we have left to do is roll to see if Italy ends the political phase. We'll do that here. This is the there's been one option played prior to this, so there's a -1 to the roll, so a 2 or less, and it will end. The roll is a 5, so we're going to slide the last card marker down on the initiative track to France. That's going to be the next and last active major power here. We'll see what France is doing. Remember, France bid for 2 political options, and these are pretty much predetermined based on her actions back in September, October. The first option that France is required to do is going to be France for its war. This is the declaration of war on Germany when she invaded the Netherlands. This is going to cost her 6 money because she's declaring war on a major power. That's going to drop her, combined with her 4 bid at the start of this political phase, to -10. She's really kind of starting to get into some deep debt here, which is going to have an impact on her production probably over the course of the next 2 to 3 turns. So having paid for that, we then need to apply the war chart plus these additional modifiers for the specific countries, and then with the U.S., the option was, it's selected now in 1940, but they declared war in 39. So I'm going to use the 39 box here, and then we're going to apply the war chart. However, we are going to have the U.S. entry effects because France did have a casus bellum against Germany for the invasion of the Netherlands, and actually technically for her treaty, her level 3 treaty partner Commonwealth declaring war, because the Commonwealth had guaranteed the Netherlands. Germany declared war on the Netherlands, the Commonwealth then declared war, and France, being in a treaty with the Commonwealth, was able then to have a casus bellum to declare war as well. So the U.S. entry hit won't be as bad. Let me go ahead and implement, with the war chart, there's always several countries that get affected by it or impacted in addition to these here. So we'll expect to see French influence, both positive and negative, sort of appearing all over the map. Once I get that laid out, France will have an opportunity to activate a country and see if maybe for all of this money she's spending, she might not be able to improve the diplomatic situation, at least somewhere in the globe. And then we'll have to roll to see if she ends the political phase before she has an opportunity to select her second option for this turn. So back in a minute. Well, as expected, when one major power declares war on another major power, there was quite a bit of a reaction from many minor countries all around the world, everywhere from Siam to Argentina and Mexico. And looking things over, France probably has more negative influence out there than positive influence right now, but she does see an opportunity. There is quite a bit of positive Democrat influence here in Poland, along with some negative German influence. So France is going to go ahead and activate Poland, and we're going to bring all of this influence over to the status display, and we'll see how this plays out. Looking at the status display, we've got the Polish marker located here. You see France up here, Commonwealth here, and Germany down at the bottom of the screen. Now, the influence markers that were currently in Poland are located right here, and they are +4 France, they are -4 Germany, and it is +8 Commonwealth. And ideally, France is trying to get Poland, this Poland marker, in her hex, which, because she has an alliance with Poland, would almost be able to, she'd be able to bring Poland into the war if she can break the alliance that Germany has with Poland. That'll require another political option, probably in another turn, and it will require a die roll. But the Democrats would love to be able to open a second front against Germany right now, because Germany has very little in the east, basically just a thin screen of units. And the Polish army, while it's not the biggest and best in the game, it's certainly sizable enough that it could cause some inconvenience at the least to Germany, and it would certainly require the Germans to send some forces to the east, which would then relieve the pressure on France in the west. Now, the trick is, are they going to be able to do that? And I don't think they are. The issue at hand, if we play the German influence first, it's a -4. Germany's here. It's going to drive the marker into one of these two hexes. Now, if we drive it into this hex, it's going to cost 3 because of the boundary that it's crossing here. If we could have gotten it, 2 hexes to here, then with the French 4, we would have been able to get it into the hex. Of course, we'd have to resolve the Commonwealth 8, which would then probably tend to pull it out of the hex, and Poland would end up sort of right here. It would be solidly in the Democrat ideology, but it wouldn't be in a major powers hex, which is ultimately the goal. So what we may have to do is settle for getting the marker into the Commonwealth hex. Now, the issue with that is the Commonwealth does not have an alliance with Poland. However, the Allies, or rather the Democrats, are going to have to force Germany to break her alliance with Poland in order to bring Poland actively into the war, regardless of whether Poland was stacked with France or not, or the Commonwealth. So once the alliance that Germany has with Poland is broken, that's going to open up a slot, because each minor country can have up to 2 alliances. That will open up a slot for the Commonwealth to subsequently sign an alliance. If they can do so quickly enough, if they can, for instance, in a future political phase, have France select the option to break the German treaty and then have the Commonwealth sign an alliance with Poland that same turn, then that will be job done. That will then allow Poland to actively join the war in a future political phase. So getting this marker into one of these two hexes is the goal right here. And I think the only way that's going to happen, or the best way that's most likely to happen, is if we go ahead and do resolve the -4 German influence first. And like I said, that's going to slide the marker here for a total of 3. Then we're going to go ahead and resolve the 4 French influence. And, well, or do we? Yeah, I think we do, because that's going to be, it's normally 2, but because it's moving towards the major power within the ideology, that's going to be reduced by 1. They have an alliance, which I think is also, nope, just moving towards you in your ideology. So that means it's going to cost 1 to go here, 2 to go here, and then 3, 4 to actually end up in the hex with France. So we're looking pretty good right now. However, we've got this 8 Commonwealth influence that we have to resolve, and that is going to pull the marker out of the hex towards the Commonwealth. The question is there enough influence there to pull them all the way into that hex? Now, let's see, we had it here. Actually, I take that back. I don't think the marker quite makes it into France. With France, it's going to be 1 to move here, 2 to move here. It's going to be 2 -1 for moving towards them in the ideology, but +1 because of the boundary. So it will be 1, 2, yeah, 3, 4. So we are good there. That is just enough to get it into the hex, which means coming back the other way with the 8, we're going to be crossing a boundary. So it's 2 +1 is 3, but it's -1 because they're still in the ideology moving towards them. So that's 2 to move there, and then it will be 3, 4, 5, and then the other 3 are kind of wasted because you can't get any closer to the Commonwealth than actually in the hex. So the Allies, or the Democrats, did manage to get Poland at least into the same hex as one of the 2 belligerents here. They could have saved themselves a step if they could have gotten it here, but I think overall they're pleased with where things ended up, and they now have some more work to do on the diplomatic front in future political phases. And now the last thing then is to roll to see if the political phase ends before France has an opportunity to do her second political option. We're going to get -2 on this. Doesn't matter, that's a 1. So it is ended. And I guess in a way that's not too horrible for France. She still has one sort of required option she needs to do, and that is IPO5 minor joins in for bringing Belgium into the war in September, October. So this thing's going to get stretched out all the way into March, April, it looks like. But with France sitting at -10 money-wise right now, that next option was going to cost her 5. That would push her all the way down to -15, which is actually her credit limit. So she would have been maxed out at that point. Now at least she'll get a turn of production, which I don't think she's producing 10 build points quite each turn. So she's probably going to end up still in the negatives this turn. But closer to 0, that means she probably won't be building anything this turn, which is not ideal when you are at war. But it will mean she's in a slightly better situation next turn as far as playing that next required political option, which is unfortunately fairly expensive. So that's going to wrap up the political phase, and we will be moving on to the sort of the whiff portion of the turn from here. We'll be rolling for weather and getting the reinforcements out onto the map. You can see we're looking at this wedge of the circle here for reinforcements this turn. But I'm going to do something a little different now moving forward. We're into 1940. action is picking up on the maps. Each of these turns is getting longer because there's more actually happening in the whiff portion of the game. We have a war between the Japanese and Chinese raging in China, and now we've got an even larger conflict going on between the Commonwealth, France, Belgium, and Germany in Europe. So rather than having this turn into like another 3-hour long episode, and which means it takes me a lot longer to edit those big episodes together, what I think I'm going to do is there's two options moving forward. One would be to sort of reduce the detail that you're seeing throughout the turns through this playthrough. But I don't think anybody is really interested in that. So that leaves us with option number 2, which is to break up these turns now moving forward into multiple videos. And what I'll probably end up doing is, depending upon how long the political phase is, if it's a fairly sizable political phase like this one is, I'll probably go ahead and just cut the video there, break the coverage there, upload the political phase portion of it, and then continue on with the whiff portion of the turn. And then depending upon how much action is going on there, that may take another 1 to 2 episodes to get through a full turn. I'm thinking the summer turns, particularly if we run into a case where the Soviet Union and Germany are now at war, perhaps with a couple of other Democrats, or if the U.S. gets involved somewhere in the world, we may have sort of multiple videos to get through those long summer turns. A winter turn like this, January, February, probably not that many impulses. The weather is likely to be bad. Of course, every time I say that, the weather ends up being much better than I expect. But still, I think this turn, we can probably get all of the whiff portion of the turn, all the action in the next video. So for now, I'm going to load this up, get this out to you guys, and press on with the rest of the turn. And I'll be just uploading these as I can, rather than on any kind of set schedule. So it's not like I'm going to wait to get the videos out as soon as I'm able. As soon as I got something together that I can upload, I'm just going to go ahead and do that. So for today, that's going to do it. We'll pick up next turn with the reinforcements here, and then get right into the action. So until then, take care, and we'll see you next time.